The city that I started out in, Somerville, Mass, at the time was a relatively corrupt place. And pretty much all our mayors and city councilors went to jail for always stupid things. But later on in life, I met by the time he was a federal judge, after I left Congress, and we having lunch together. And he happened to have been the U.S. Assistant District Attorney who was prosecuting a lot of people I actually served with in the city at the time. He called one of his interns over and said, "I want you to meet, Mike Capuano." He said, "When I was getting started, we put everybody that he served with in jail." He said, "He's the only guy that everybody we talked to said, no, don't bother with Mike. He's not that way." It's like, well, why didn't you tell me this 40 years ago so I could have used it, as a political thing? Judge Wolf says Mike Capuano is the only honest man he ever met.
I remember in 2017 when we did the tax reform package. And coming from California, it was a very difficult decision for me to support it because some of my constituents were going to be hurt because California is a very high tax state. And the way you could, when you did your taxes, you could deduct your state income tax from your federal tax. Well, we were going to change that under the new tax law. And I had several of my very, very wealthy donors call me and ask me not to support the tax reform package because it was going to hurt them badly. And I felt that it was the right thing to do to support it because overall it was going to benefit more of my constituents than it was going to benefit the very, very wealthy. And that wasn't an easy conversation to have with somebody who's a big donor to you.
The rule in DC I felt always was, if you don't want to see it above the fold on the front page of the Washington Post, then don't do it. Well, there is no above the fold anymore. There's no Washington Post anymore. So what is the rule now? And I feel like that's a little bit what we're saying, that your ethics is different from my ethics. In this new world, this sort of post-institutional world, everyone has to have their own ethics, and there's no one rule.